more confident going forward with like the St. John's Farm in episode 2 and having those moments where you could just hang out and sit around with characters and talk, which ended up being something that got you really invested and then you cared about when they died, if they did later.
How do you feel looking at this now, Dennis? Because it's just the way that these episodes, and it was across all parts of the game, but it would be just frenetic pace, and then at one point it's like, oh my god, it shipped,
Yeah.
So I know watching back when I watched a few playthroughs just preparing for this, and realized that all the episodes have blended together now, so that I was worried about that. But I would watch things and think, wow, that's just how I'd probably do it still. And do you feel? I mean, obviously there's technological advances, but how do you feel looking at this?
So since I was the head of the cinematics department at the time, knowing like it's definitely scenes I look at and remember. Oh, I remember this person working on this scene,
yeah, right.
And like how much we rewrote stuff and then that affected their lives, and I felt really bad about it. So it's weirdly, I think a lot about that. And actually at the end of this episode, there's like the moment with the woman in the hotel room that kills herself, and one of the cinematic artists, Graham Ross, for like a month was working on that scene, and we would go and ask him to go to lunch, and he would just like take off his headphones and look at us sullenly and just be like,
my God,
I can't. And
the
we
Telltale
ask him,
gaze.
we're just like, what are you working on? And he was just like, I'm just listening to like sad music and like, things that make me feel awful. And he was just in that zone for like a month. To like, but it pays off and the stuff is really good. So, but
Julian,
that's called suffering for your art.
Instead of the 1,000
he's mentally
yard,
ill now.
You always gave me the 1,000-yard gaze.
Yeah,
you should have just said the Telltale gaze.
Yeah. Well, we also had terms. We used the word telltale as a, like I'm getting telltaled right now. And then there's, and there was a lot of versions of it.
And apparently, as we've learned as of recent, it's not just Telltale Games. There's
I'm getting
it's a game
working
industry
for
thing
it
for
is
sure.
just
Well,
sadly,
honestly, part of this,
crazy.
like talking about Graham listening to sad stuff and people working, tirelessly and iterating and caring about what you're shipping. That's just when you care about something.
I'm going to ask Graham if he was listening to like the Smiths, like
Morrissey.
The Queen
Morrissey,
is
yeah.
Dead or
Totally.
something. That album
sure.
is just mother.
I hadn't heard about Graham immersing himself
Sing
like that. It's
me
like,
to sleep.
Yeah,
Graham's
he goes
like
method.
He's
method
method shorn.
cinematics.
Method cinematics.
It's good.
Oh man,
I love
here's
Larry.
Larry.
Terry
What
McGovern.
What a
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Another
Amazing
industry veteran.
legend
boy.
of voice acting.
And
Yeah.
he was, these aren't the droids I'm looking for.
He
Yeah.
was yes,
Yeah.
he was that.
Terry, when I moved to San Francisco Bay Area in like 1980, he was already a thing.
Of course, yeah.
And radio, acting,
on camera too.
on camera.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I just saw a post from him the other day, and he seems to be doing okay.
Yeah, I
Doing
hadn't
well.
seen.
Yeah.
He had some tough
Great guy.
stuff. And
Great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I can't believe this. I was such a huge fan of DuckTales. Why am I Launchpad?
Oh, that's funny. Yep.
He was Launchpad,
Oh.
which was like my childhood.
The thing about Terry is this is
Happiness.
another like kudos to this project is that he was a guy who had kind of done a lot of things, and he even noticed like this is different. This is really
yeah.
And a lot of game
Strikingly
dialogue
different.
work was like over there, you get down. It wasn't
Right.
I will
Scenes
kill
and
you.
stuff.
Yeah,
Die.
totally. This is gonna get processed. Don't worry, man. It's
Yeah.
gonna be. You're gonna sound like a ghost.
I did an episode 2 playthrough of this season. So I directed episode 2, and after it launched, I had a playthrough at my place, and a bunch of you guys were able to make it over. I think
That was amazing.
Dave was working on something else at the time, so you weren't able to make it up. But what's funny is watching, we basically were passing the controller around and giving the controller to Terry and letting him play his own death scene in episode
that's
2
awesome.
was hilarious.
I bet
and
it was.
I have footage of it, but it's
Oh,
really dark and grainy.
Yeah.
So
That was
bums me out.
fun. That was a really fun night.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the nights where I met the
I think
bulk
I
of
think that was
Telltale
the night I
people who were.
Skyped in.
That might have. Yeah, I think we did like call you in for a bit. Yeah.
And then after a while, you got bored with me and just.
Just close
Hello,
the computer.
you guys there? Anybody? Anybody?
Totally.
Hello?
I don't think I think they muted.
Is Dave
me.
still on?
You know, Terry, talking about just the sessions as well is when Nikki, who's Lily,
Yes.
Nikki Rapp, that scene where her side of the salt block scene, she, a lot of times actors they'd really be tweaked in there, and they just she just sat down and just needed to hang out a little bit.
She told me about that. She said after that scene
that was
you guys were actually
we're gonna go to lunch. Yeah, no, we were. Come on, just eat.
Yeah, a lot. Well, that's the thing with the writing on this game. It was so people are like, oh, did you ever they just give you freedom to do a take of your own? Or I'm like, the writing was nailed down in such an amazing way that it wasn't there was maybe one or two lines, but it was just little things that we tweaked, but otherwise
the lines that we had to tweak were usually with those scripts that came in 20 minutes
before
the session.
Do you want 2 weirs in a row?
And
we're
I get that question all the time.
Love that shot of Larry.
Well, no,
Pops
not
him
that.
over the edge.
The question all the time about the scripts and how much improvising did you do, and because it sounds so natural, but the writing was just that good.
Yeah. And writing for a little kid.
Yeah.
Also, it's
hard.
It's hard because kids
from a guy who didn't have
differently.
kids. He did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably why.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I remember he wrote a lot. Obviously, he was the lead writer for the season, but he would come in on every other episode too and take scenes and help out, and he was really good at sort of setting the bar. I think that then we would try to follow through with the rest of the characters. And
Totally.
Yeah, it was just great.
Well,
On
and
another level.
Sean was I worked with him on a lot of other games too, and he just he just always had a real sense of knowing what he wanted to hear, because a lot of times it was his dialogue, but he also knew the vibe he wanted out of a scene.
For sure.
I want to know why you didn't give Lee a love interest in a sex scene.
What, a sex scene?
Yeah.
A X X X X X X.
Honestly,
What
that
buttons
was
would you be
proposed
mashing?
at one point. Not by the dev team, but it was a note from outside.
Oh,
it was
that's
a studio
awesome.
note.
Well, I mean, there was tension between him and Carly, so I mean.
Was it a fan?
No, it was like a sort of studio note kind of deal.
Ah,
It was
I mean,
weird.
it's implied with Carly if she sticks around.
Yeah.
There's
It is,
something
yeah.
that there's tension there, you know. There's a little peck on the cheek.
Yes.
Well, clearly we need to take her out. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lee's about to get some happiness. Can't have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kenny. With the Randy Tudor mustache, right?
Oh, it's
Yep.
so great.
So much there's contention among the fans over every Kenny Easter egg versus every Randy Easter egg. Which Easter egg is this mustache referring to?
Yeah.
It's almost always Randy.
We can't let anything happen to Ducky.
I know, hon.
This is a nice downbeat moment that Nick Herman worked on a bunch, who was also a director on this season in later episodes and future games with Telltale, and now I work with.
don't move it. Look out.
And started Telltale when he was like 11.
Yeah,
I know,
he was
right?
hired right out of
Yeah.
high
Still
school,
only like
basically.
26. I don't
Yep.
get it.
And but this scene was, I remember, being just really challenging because it's such a small downbeat moment between Lee and Clementine, and they're really just kind of like moving a desk out of the way and kind of doing little interactions in the scene. But all of those things feel like they mean something when you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like the performances are awesome. It's shot really well, and this ended up being one of those great moments that just sets up their relationship for the season.
Well, and that's really cool. And then talking with you and bringing up Nick and Grady and all, all these people that truly, this was kind of like fresh-faced,
Absolutely.
right? Literally, maybe
Yeah.
right out of high school. I don't know, or early college, and it's
Sure.
just, and look at you now.
Yeah.
It's so cool to see everybody's journey, whether they were still with Telltale when it was closed or where you're at now.
It's good old Kent sitting to my right here.
Yeah.
But
I'm here too, and I was around.
Were you fresh out of high school?
No, I was somewhat fresh out of college.
Okay, all right.
I had only had one gig before Telltale.
They only when Telltale went under, it was a shock for a lot of people. And but the good thing is there's a lot of Telltale DNA.
Absolutely.
that
For sure.
has spread through the
That's
You know,
true.
it's
Thank
funny because
God.
a lot of us came from LucasArts, and that's where I met Dan and Kev. I didn't actually meet Kevin there, but I knew Dan really well, and those kind of seeds went out and started Telltale and other companies. Nihilistic was one of them, and then the same has happened with Telltale. And it's just creative people do creative things, and,
Right.
and you're not going to keep them corralled up for long.
Well,
But I just feel like there was such a wealth of that at Telltale.
Well,
'cause
there was
so
such
many
good
people.
chemistry between the people. I feel like, and
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to other game companies I've worked with. I just don't have that. I don't know them, so maybe that's
Right.
part of the problem. But
Yeah.
I mean, there was such
I
a
would
a
like to.
family. Those videos that you posted after Telltale closed. I mean, literally, I watched that 1,000 times in a row, and it just brought me to tears because even though it was such a stressful environment, there
Yeah.
was so much fun
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
laughter and family.
look
It was
at
family.
what came out of it.
Yeah.
Look at what came out of it.
So that's a really
And-
special thing.
In so many ways, I mean, decisions that were made, you could fault people for doing the things that caused it to go under, but they were trying to do amazing things, and
Yeah.
sometimes they just did. Case
Yeah.
in point.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
Indeed.
even
Yes.
even through the end of Telltale, it always felt like some place where it was just there were so many passionate people there you could just collaborate with.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It never felt like
Everyone-
you're working in a vacuum. It felt like a village together.
Yeah.
Trying
And
to
you
make
weren't
cool
you weren't
things.
the only one putting in extra hours. Too.
No,
Like, wow,
everyone,
you're still here.
most people there believed probably way too hard in whatever we were making.
Yeah. Dennis, you posted a few pictures of
Went
the
over finger.
sunset.
Or sunrise.
or I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
those
sorry,
are
not
sunrises.
the sunset,
Yeah,
the
those happened.
sunrise.
The inverse of the sunset.
Right,
I
it's when the
think-
sun
I
goes
think-
up.
I think everybody who has worked there and part of so many good projects will wear that as a badge of honor throughout their careers.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, and I just think that, I mean, you look at other industries too, like film industry or even, non-creative fields. It's hard to make good things.
Yeah.
That doing it the right way is doing it the hard way.
Lord
And with
knows
people
I've seen
you-
enough bad movies.
Yeah, I mean,
And people you enjoy working with. I mean, I think that there are people that are able to pull stuff out, but you might have contentious, energies with the people that you're having to collaborate with. I just use a lot of big words in one sentence.
Wow.
I'm
You mean
so
like-
impressed.
oh,
mean
look
like
at your
Simon
little
and
little
Garfunkel?
cheat sheet.
Obviously, we're not drinking the bourbon.
I haven't used the word tacit yet, but I'm going to.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, people you like working with matters a lot
Yeah.
and is often rarer than it should
No,
be.
and I think in game development in general too, there is that feeling of a weird, smaller version of a Brotherhood of War kind of thing, where
Yes,
it's like
yes.
Yeah.
or,
We're
and
We're in the
Sisterhood,
trenches,
where
right?
You're,
Let's make
Yeah,
a
you're
video game.
basically like
But with no
Everyone's in it
mustard
together.
gas or bullets coming.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
exactly. It's the weak version of it. But no, I think you're right. It's like you in the thing I posted, and there's just random videos. Like some of those are like 3 a.m. and people are playing acoustic guitar
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
joking. It's like you kind of have to do that, especially working on material like this where it's so serious
Yeah.
and you're listening to screams in your
Totally.
headphones all day, and then you have to find those bright
Yeah.
moments to kind of pull yourself out of it.
I think that even in the painful parts, there was a lot of laughing and like we were constantly
oh, in the
cracking
studio.
up. Yeah.
Except for the
Oh my
final
God.
episode of
That
this
was
season.
rough.
That was like, and
Yeah.
I mean, that was Dark Cloud, but otherwise, we had such an amazing time in the studio. It almost felt too good. I would leave, and I would just feel so insanely grateful
Yeah.
Yeah.
to be doing what I'm doing. It was like pinch.
Yeah,
myself.
totally.
I'm working with these
Well, and-
people that I want to just like hang out with all the time.
Yeah.
We're
To
laughing
get
our asses
such
off.
Great words.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Man.
Yeah, Studio Jory was definitely a second
Oh,
home
man.
for
Yeah.
Yeah.
for a
God rest
good
his soul.
chunk.
I know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you came in and I don't think you
How did Carly
knew
get in there?
I don't think you knew that you were dying and you were just thumbing through the script and then I heard you start swearing in there like and it was just you and I, Jory obviously, and Jake
Yeah.
that day. And you kind of had a cold or something and I remember it was like the lowest volume other than Campman, who was really low, but it was just so it was great. And And it was like a 2-hour, like we dragged that death over 2 hours.
Oh,
but,
the final.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I got to hear, that was thankfully you did record before me, and it was one of the few times I actually got to hear him
someone other than me
in my headphones. Well, you would have been amazing
dead,
too,
I'm
but it was
dead.
very effective to hear Dave's
Oh,
performance
no, it was,
on
yeah.
that.
Well, I'll tell you what else. I intended to go in and be an actor and make the sounds of crying,
Right.
but I actually ended up crying.
Yeah.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah,
And-
it was serious.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of crazy because that surprised me, but I also said, well, okay, tears coming.
Yeah.
I'll just go with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It
And
was
we were all
devastating.
bleary-eyed on our side, just being exhausted too. And it was just one of those things where the process melted away,
Yeah.
and you were just in there.
And if it had been one session and I had to die and cry, and I don't think that would have happened. But
Right.
I had lived with this character for so long.
Oh, we'd
and
done so many sessions too.
so many sessions, and there was so much I liked about this character, who he was, and the relationship with Clementine. And one of my hooks was I'm a dad.
Right.
I have a daughter.
I remember you talking about that. Yeah.
And I could just relate to how I feel about her and how much I wanted to protect her all her life, except those teenage years when she hated me. No.
Right. Those are gone.
No,
Yeah.
she actually, her teenage years weren't that bad. But I just related to this character. And when I got to that scene, it was just like, whoa, where did these tears come from?
Yeah.
Man.
And
Yeah.
again, that writing. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, damn
it
that
was
writing.
good.
It was
Damn that
yeah,
good
it was the
writing.
same experience for me. I had this moment like, well, acting and like
Yeah.
think of something that's really depressing and sad and just bring yourself there. But no, it was so organic.
Yeah,
It was
you didn't need to think
so-
about it.
Yeah.
And you were like moving us through, because normally we'll stop and do like a few takes or let's try that again. But you were moving through it
Yeah.
in a
'Cause
very
you were-
subdued
yeah, you guys
manner.
were
You
in
wanted
it.
to just keep it going, which was.
Yeah, and Jory, I remember that. Both of them. There were times where a few other actors too. We just always were. There was no stopping and starting.
Right.
We just rolled.
Well,
the
and it
whole
wasn't
time.
even his typical like, great, moving on.
Exactly.
It was like moving on.
Is Jory okay? He's not
Yeah, I
speaking in
know.
there. Yeah.
What's happened? Yeah, you're just like, just keep going.
I
just
remember
go.
him. He was all teary on those too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. And I it's funny. Gavin had a similar. I forget what the scene was, and he did such a great job. And then we were like looking at him and we're push the button. You all right? And he goes, yeah, man, I'm fine. I'm just acting.
I was gonna bring up Gavin too. Yeah, there's times with Gavin
Gavin.
where it's like he'd be mid cry
And
and,
you'd be
then like
like, oh my-
cough or something and be like, oh sorry, anyways, let's try that again. You
Yeah.
guys want to get a burrito? I was like,
Yeah,
"What?"
totally.
Oh, wow.
Can you
so
wait?
Gavin.
Can you wait to order? Because I really want to. I want to
Yeah.
put in my two
That
cents.
Episode 1 has the most puzzly stuff in it,
Yeah.
and then episode 2 has like one more puzzly moment, and then episode 3 maybe a little one with the train, and then we slowly started kind of getting away from the things that slow the pacing of the story down and make you try to keep you in that headspace of the characters and the relationships the whole time.
Classic spot.
The motor
The
and
motel
The
sign.
Travelier
Oh,
Travelier Hotel Motel.
that guy's just hanging out up there.
Yeah, hello.
That guy's got like a school jersey on, but he looks like he's 80.
I know he's been decomposing for
Yeah.
what?
Didn't the apocalypse start like yesterday?
I
The
know, it's
RV.
like 5 days ago, and
You know,
everybody's already
yeah.
falling apart.
Every time I see RVs, I think of Breaking Bad and this game.
Yeah, totally.
I think
We've
this
got RVs locked down.
Yeah, definitely.
motel was
Glenn.
the motoring was based on. I think I just read this somewhere. I can't remember if Jake was just talking about it, but based on a motel that was like 5 minutes down away from Telltale, just off
that's
a highway.
so fun. Oh, I think I
Yeah.
remember hearing
Is
that
it still
too.
there?
It's still there.
Julian, I
Wow.
think you were telling me that the Clem's house is based off Jake's house.
It's Jake's childhood home.
Jake's childhood
that they still live
Oh,
in.
I did not know.
Yeah, his
that.
parents still live in the tree.
Wow.
I don't know if the tree house is there too, but that would be awesome.
Sean told me that Lee Everett is based off a professor he had in college.
Fine, let's go save Glenn's damsel in distress.
Didn't Nick Mastriani do this scene?
I can't remember.
Thought I remember that was the case.
This one definitely I know went through some iterations because it was a really puzzly moment.
I always look back on the scene as being like one of the most complicated things we've like ever
It
done,
was
and I kind
really
of still to this day
complicated,
can't believe that it's so crazy.
Yeah.
This is actually something design-wise I was always felt like I was chasing in future Telltale games. It's like I want to make something as cool as
Sure.
the motor inn, and it was always hard. All right, now I have the pillow. I actually forget how to finish this scene. Now that I have the pillow, I know I can kill a zombie silently somewhere, but I don't remember which zombie it is. We never made something with so many stations. Like the stations are kind of technically complicated to set up, and so we never made something with quite as much like stealthing around as this. I think I can kill some zombies silently now. Is it that guy over there? Is it this fella? Yeah.
That one. Maybe.
There we go.
We'll find out.
Get out your gun.
The noise.
Just follow my lead. Stay right behind.
Yeah, these puzzles are complicated enough that I can't even necessarily memory my way back through all of them. Only dreams now.
Boom.
Thanks, Carly.
I'm sure that silenced it.
Well, and
Yeah, right. I didn't hear it.
It's sort of a little bit of a legacy adventure game moment where it's like use pillow on zombie equals Carly coming over and shooting. Well, the team at large, but engineering team also did a great job with this game trying to figure out all the weird ways we could take this tool that was built for making adventure games, this one thing, and then do this. And a lot of these little moments, which you would think, I mean, if you're in Unity or Unreal, this is like a quick thing to set up. But
effortless in
in
comparison.
Telltale Tool, it would be like, just because it was made for a different purpose originally, it was all stuff that was being kind of like retrofitted and invented to make these moments possible as we kind of went along.
Right.
And I know I need
to
the like
push the car at some point.
I know I need the bolts to break that window without
The
making
spark
any
plug.
noise.
The spark
Which
plug.
I weirdly learned is a real thing.
Yeah,
Apparently you
I
can
remember
hit a window
finding
with
out
a
that
I've
was a
never
real
tried
thing.
it.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to try it.
But I don't know. People figured it out.
Yeah.
And, felt like a little win. So that's
Oh,
good.
if I were to play
Here's the
this
spark
and
plugs
control it, it would take 14 hours to get there. In fact, when I
Yeah.
first played it, I couldn't get out of the.
I'm not hearing the audio right now, so I'm trying to muscle memory my way. Like, wait, how did these puzzles?
Yeah,
go?
totally.
So
funny.
doing my best.
It's good. Well, and that's, again, one of the evolutions coming from adventure games. A lot of times they try to make adventure game puzzles are sort of more open-ended where you can kind of come back to the same place over and over again. And with Telltale, as we progressed forward from this episode, the idea was always to try and keep the story moving forward at every point. And so we ended up losing a lot of those moments where you have to go back to places.
Is that hatchet going to get used?
It might come back
Probably.
later on.
I will admit, I remember when I first came to Telltale, I finally sat down to try to play Sam & Max Season 3. And they just
really
gave me
hard.
so many options of where to go at the beginning. I was like, what the hell does the game want me to do?
Yeah.
And I would go to every subsequent location
Yep.
and exhaust everything I thought I could do there and then be like, I have no idea what to do now.
Yeah, no, those games are tough.
Yeah.
Fun, but tough.
I liked the hint system in Back to the Future that just told me exactly what to do.
Yeah. if you-
Glenn is voiced by Nick Herman, right?
Oh, yeah, good
Yeah.
point.
Oh,
There you go.
God, that's
Yeah,
right.
I know, it was awesome.
Forgot
Yeah.
about
I've
that.
listened to a bunch of voice lines recently for this definitive edition and realizing like, oh shit, I totally forgot that was Nick. And he delivers pizza.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he does.
And sympathy.
Delivers pizza and sympathy.
And I'm wondering if Glenn, I mean, this is the melding of universes, but after he leaves them, is that when he goes to
Yeah.
Atlanta and meets up with?
Yep.
Obviously, I guess.
Yeah, no, we definitely
Yeah.
started with more tie-ins.
Didn't work out too well for him.
No.
Yeah.
Well, he lasted a good amount of time
Yeah.
for a
Yeah,
Walking
yeah.
Dead
Well, he
character.
did. Yeah, he had a Kenny-like
did.
revival.
So episode 2, let's see. There was one of the big moments was people sort of realizing Clementine was paying attention to how they were acting. That was one of the big sort of focal points of episode 2 was the moment with Danny St. John where you can kill
There
him.
we go.
Get that
X.
iconic X. And if you
Shit.
choose to do it, looking over and seeing Clementine looking at you in horror, and that was a big moment for
Yeah.
players realizing
Yeah.
like, oh, she's watching and
Yeah.
processing this.
I
and
remember that. That
going
was
forward.
my scene in that episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were working on that one for a while.
Yeah,
right?
that was my first ever Walking Dead scene. Was the inside of the barn
The
escape.
barn.
Oh
yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So episode 2, one of the sort of original passes on it. So Chuck Jordan, who worked a lot sort of structurally on helping set things up for success, had written a version of episode 2 a while, like way long before episode 1 was even half done. Is at the time there was this notion that all episodes were going to be written kind of a little more concurrently, and then we could get everything done in a quicker time. But as happens, things pushed.
What could go wrong?
And then as we were developing episode 1, and you find those moments, it's like, oh, people really do care about the characters and the callbacks, and here's how interactive narrative is working in a different way in the Telltale games than even we thought when we were just starting out. And so episode 2 had to go through an extensive sort of rewrite process at the very last minute. I'm sure that was when you guys were getting scripts, the day of your recordings, unfortunately.
That's not what I remember.
But yeah, it was interesting looking back at the episode 2 script and thinking, like, oh, this totally makes sense. Like, it's written fantastically for where the episode 1 was like 6 months ago.
That's
just because we were just kind of finding new things out as we went.
Well, and how much as someone who plays the games, the choices of people playing it, like how much
definitely.
does that, I mean,
huge.
Obviously it is a huge effect to the, but that must add to the pressure of like, oh God, we thought that people would actually like this character, and in fact, 90% of them chose to whatever.
That's exactly.
Oh yeah, the data.
Segue into
the data.
Yeah, it's huge in Duck, who we mentioned earlier as being the sort of like
R.I.P.
more stereotypical annoying kid character
Right.
in a game, and there was the built to the moment of the Kenny having to choose to shoot him in the the woods in episode 3, and that whole moment wouldn't work if you didn't feel some sympathy for Duck.
Yeah.
And when episode 1 and 2 came out, we realized like a lot of the player feedback was like, oh, this kid's annoying. Can't I just get a gun and shoot him?
Oh, that's so funny.
And I remember like Sean and Jake going, oh crap, in order, this thing we're setting up in episode 3
not gonna
to work
work.
is not going to work
Yeah.
unless people care about him. So I think it was a matter of days. They created
that's so great.
the little motor-in puzzle with Detective Duck.
Yes.
And that whole thing was purely added at the
That's
very last
so
minute
awesome.
just to make sure people cared enough about him when the murder scene came up later. Murder.
Yeah,
That's not me. I play somebody who gets taken down by zombies, and I am only remembering this because I did the
It's a hotel girl.
scream, and literally, thankfully, I was going on vacation because I was like 2 octaves lower.
Yeah.
It basically was a voiceover, live and learn. I'll never do that
Right.
again. I was like,
Was
it'll
that the
be so
episode 3
much fun.
screaming girl?
Maybe. Maybe it is.
Which
Yeah,
was then
because I don't
voiced by a
remember.
chart artist.
I don't remember having
Yeah, it
all
was.
those lines. Yeah, I don't think.
I thought I remembered something we added the scene to make Duck likable. I thought I remember in episode 4
Make Duck likable.
we added scenes
Make
to make
Duck
Ben
great again.
less likable.
Make
Wasn't the
Duck
stuff where he like
great
fucked up
again.
and like didn't protect Clementine in the first scene like added pretty late?
Probably.
I think I only remember because that was my scene, and later they updated it so that Ben like abandons Clementine when she's surrounded by zombies. Because there were not enough people were gonna drop Ben off the bell tower.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Yeah, people.
Because
Yeah,
Clementine liked
that's right.
Ben, that almost overrided any other feelings they had toward
Yeah.
Ben,
Right.
despite him being like a huge cause of most of the problems they encounter in the story.
You sure?
Yeah. I'm here with you.
You're a good man.
I think I
Well,
remember that too.
here's
yeah.
another little random tidbit I learned from Sean at PAX West last year. The Brooklyn sweatshirt
Oh yeah.
was
good.
their obsession with the movie Kangaroo Jack,
Oh,
which I
that's-
can't believe I never
really
picked
funny,
it up
yeah.
because I've weirdly seen that movie like 5 or 6 times
That's
because I
really
think it's
cool.
hilarious. But it's Kangaroo Jack. So when he showed me the picture of the kangaroo with the Brooklyn sweatshirt, my mind
Yeah.
literally
Oh, that's cool.
exploded out of my skull.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize too in development. There's a lot of choices that you make like all day. You're just
Yeah.
making choices, right? And
Oh,
some of them
constantly.
are just like concepting. Like sometimes it's a quick part of the process when you're like out of time and you just there's like a funny call like that. Someone's
Yeah,
like, oh,
right.
it should be the kangaroo sweatshirt, Kangaroo Jack sweatshirt, and it's like it's a thing that it's kind of funny. It gets a laugh at the time,
Right.
and then it becomes a thing that's in the whole season,
That's-
and you have
yeah,
to look at it.
totally.
Like
Yeah.
Clem's rainbow jacket in season 2
Oh,
was
I
like a
love
thing
that
that was
puppy.
like I think Ainsworth.
I
And
want
then
that
it becomes
puppy.
legendary.
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed that back at Herschel's, maybe it was Herschel's, where the camera stopped on the address 5240. Was that something? I was going to ask you then. It was just a number.
Yeah, I don't
it's
remember.
not like 1138.
Oh, not that I know of. Well,
Gavin.
speaking to the voice performances, like obviously you guys know that the Clementine relationship is the key to all of this working.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone, fan-wise, loves it and appreciates everything. But also from the development team-wise, like we would get those performances back, and that was the first thing we would start with. And it would be one of those things where in those great moments, like even like funny, like just random, like little moments that you would never think, like you're just in the booth recording what maybe seems like a fun, small character moment. Like those WAV files would get passed around the office. Like people would hear those, and the weirdest little things could inspire someone to go,
absolutely.
You know what would be awesome? Like this read, the way they did it, like what if we changed the scene a little bit to be like this, and it would actually influence the scenes as they were taking shape. And it was so definitely great script starting with for sure. And then your guys' performance coming in always being amazing was a thing that one was just a pleasure to work with, as someone who's kind of helping on that stuff, but also awesome for the whole rest of the team at Telltale who was
that's really cool.
back there. And it was always, every time a new batch of voice lines would come in, there was always like sort of a rush of excitement, and someone would go and start working on a scene and work on just a small little moment with, Lee and Clementine talking, and it was just a little 30-second clip, and then they would just bring people around to their desks and be like, oh, check this out. Isn't this cool?
That's so great.
That's awesome.
Great.
I was at a convention and somebody cosplayed Doug. He was standing in front of me
that's
for
so
forever,
awesome.
and he's like, "Don't you recognize me?" I'm like, "No, sorry."
And it was Doug Tobacco.
He had a little a pen with a little laser
man.
pointer on it, and he's like, "I'm Doug," and I was like, "Oh."
That's
my
pretty
Oh.
great.
God.
Weird
Hang on,
piece of
security.
trivia. Obviously, it's probably mostly widely known that was our T guy at the time.
Yeah.
Doug Tobacco,
Who's
was
a
awesome.
genius, by the way, if you're out
And-
there, Doug.
In episode 2, the laser pointer thing, we'd just hired some new cinematic artists to help on episode 2, and Grady Standard was his first thing was we're like, oh, learn how to use the tool and work with this laser pointer and sort of do stuff.
Yeah.
So apparently the laser pointer stuff that Doug does in episode 2 is actual Morse code for something.
Oh, that's
he was new and like learning the tool, so he just spent like a couple weeks just
my
like
God.
making that a
Oh,
real
that's
thing.
so awesome.
Yeah.
Which was pretty awesome.
And we don't know what it says though.
I've heard different versions. It probably says, I hate working for Dennis now.
Well, there's something for a
said,
fan
I'm having
to.
fun right now.
There's
My
something for a
life
fan to
sucks.
obsessively dig into.
Well, I remember too, like the I think it was Ryan Kaufman that quoted it, but maybe you'll know. He said voice is the gas that Telltale runs on, because it really was, there's concept art and ideas and but like for a first episode, those files came in well in advance. I actually have the visuals that I had to show you guys in the very beginning, and it's like a bunch of characters in T poses and like a barn, and there wasn't much to show you.
No, not at all.
But we
that's
also-
pretty common in
Yeah.
games.
Yeah,
but-
but then as the episodes went on, there was obviously you guys kind of defined who you were.
Well, I remember playing the first episode when it was released, and it was like, oh shit, because obviously we
Right.
don't see the animation, we don't
Right,
have,
totally.
Jared's
me.
awesome music, we don't have
Absolutely.
the sound, the ambiance, it really is. It was like watching a whole new game.
Yeah.
So easy to take myself out of critiquing my performance and just be like, wow, this is.
Yeah.
Number one foam finger fan here.
That-
I
that
love
is-
the
that
game.
was
I
so-
am a huge fan
That
of
was
the
so
game.
my experience too when I watching the playthrough, and you're just in it like, oh, this is a movie or a TV
Yeah.
show,
Yeah.
and what's going to happen next? Oh, this person gets to decide. And
And remember all the nonverbal stuff. We went. Actually, Jory helped me, and we just figured out a script that we had every actor do, and it kind of was born out of Jurassic Park. Is getting people to breathe normally, breathe scared, breathe in pain, and not just a couple breaths. Because if something happened to you in real life, and you said, "Oh my God, my leg," then you wouldn't just be all silent. You'd be like, "Ah."
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
And that was a lot of and that's where I think a lot of chore artists got a hold of that stuff. And And then requests started coming in. Hey, next time that Dave's up, will you get him to maybe have him say like and little half words and that kind of stuff was.
And yet, not
great.
one ow.
Not one.
Yeah.
Ow.
Damn it.
Speaking of people that went on to do other things as well, definitely worth mentioning. Gary Whitta was involved with season
Yeah.
1 and
Gary Whitta.
on episode
Gary.
4.
Right.
He's done pretty good for himself.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I
Book of
remember,
Eli.
Yes,
Yeah,
he
there you
wrote the Book of Eli, which is an amazing movie.
Amazing movie.
Plus, he's like the Star Wars guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
on Rogue One.
Rogue One,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm like, duh.
But I remember him being in some of the writers' rooms for the season early on when we were kind of trying to break stuff. And I remember one of his, I feel like a big contribution of his was he always pushed things to go darker. Like, I feel like people were sort of stepping their toes and like, oh, maybe like his finger gets hurt. And he was just like, what? What if they
ripped his arm
the
off?
baby comes back to life as a zombie and like eats someone?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good point.
He also was really tapped into what people were saying in forums and things, and he would like. I remember he was in on some sessions once, and he was talking about people that were complaining, and he said, there are people that walk 12 miles for fresh water, for God's sake, and he's like, in his accent,
That's awesome.
he
Chicago.
yeah. He yeah,
Right, he's a British Chicago.
Yeah.
He loves it when I do an impersonation of him. By
And
the
we
way.
all sound like
Gary Whitta.
we all sound like Dick Van
Mary
Dyke, you know.
Poppins.
No, not that bad. We don't sound that bad.
I do.
I remember being in session with him, and that was when the language was always the saltiest.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah,
And the
he-
things I said, does your mother know you writing stuff like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big believer in just get down and dirty in the scene and make it real. And
Yeah.
it showed. It
Yes.
helped a lot.
Indeed. He did some work on season 4, didn't he?
I
He
don't
was
know.
in incredibly early writers' rooms.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
it didn't end up
Incredibly.
Yeah. Well, it was,
Incredibly
season 4 had
early.
kind of a wacky thing where there was
Yeah.
a whole version of it before I even got on. So
Wow.
I've never seen any Gary Whitta versions of season 4.
Well, I'll have to ask him about it one day.
Ooh, zombies
Was
like
there
television.
was there
I
any
finally figured
modeling
out this
like
puzzle.
like just for fun Easter egg stuff of zombies after people? I remember there was a couple
Well,
that
episode 5 has those contest winners, right?
Yeah.
There are
Oh, that's
contest
awesome.
winner
One.
zombies in the final. Isn't there more than one?
Is there more than one?
I thought there were like
Oh,
3.
that's
The guy who
right,
gets his
there
head,
was a
the guy who gets his head cut in
contest.
half is a
That's right.
contest winner.
I
That's
forgot
awesome.
It's actually
about
notably the zombies that look way better than the
That
zombies.
doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be a great prize to get.
that. I'm sure
Mom,
they were
Were you in a
psyched.
video game?
And
I
the-
got
the-
a job.
The character of Bree in the 4th episode was the big contest winner, if I
Oh,
recall correctly. She was completely
interesting.
based off a fan.
Wow.
She gets a horrible death
Yep.
with intestines coming all out.
Yeah, Bree was.
Yeah.
Which you imagine a Walking Dead fan is probably extremely happy
No,
about.
that's
Oh,
awesome.
that's
great.
exactly
Yeah.
what they
That's
want.
great, yeah.
That's exactly what they want.
Yeah.
It's a sad moment.
This is a different Telltale
Let me
property.
have
One
a
of the
few
writers.
lines, get killed, and come back as a zombie and chomp
That's a-
on somebody.
Yeah, that's a cool thing.
And that's his brother. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Lee's poor brother.
Why?
I
I've
remember
never put
this.
that
I
together.
remember this. Ah.
Yeah, this was all these. We had some rough. We had some
Yeah,
rough
it's dark.
rough concepts.
Mm-hmm.
This episode has like a suicide, and it
Yeah.
has murdering
What
your
the
own
hell?
brother as a zombie, and it has
Yep.
people's children dying. It's a lot.
See you later, little
Chuck.
buddy.
Chuck the hobo.
Yeah.
Who was one of my favorite characters. Brief that he be.
Chuck the
Voiced
I
by
love Chuck
Roger
the hobo.
Jackson. Yeah, I liked. He was like a wise elder that pops in for the train and
I distinctly
then
remember.
dies.
I distinctly remember he used to live a little longer in episode 4, and I remember reading a bit that like you need to get coins out of the binocular thing. You need to like so that you could. Oh no, you need to get coins out of a newspaper machine so you could look through the binoculars at the boats out in the water. And Lee
yeah.
couldn't figure out how to get it out, and then
Nice.
Chuck would just walk
The
up and
money
smack
shot.
it, and all the money would just fall out. And he would just look at Lee, and Lee would be speechless, and he would just say, "Old hobo trick."
Uh,
I just
Good.
love that he's a hobo.
Yeah.
oh man.
And Roger Jackson. He's a
I
character.
shored Chuck's final stand where he saves Clementine with that shovel.
Oh
Nice.
I remember distinctly I reused the animation of Danny St. John getting killed with the pitchfork.
They're good.
He just used the shovel instead of a pitchfork.
God, there was a version where the Doug and Carly choice got swapped up to the beginning of the episode. So
Whoa.
the game opened with that.
trap! Run! Man, that was close.
But we did it. It's all that matters. I've got the keys.
Great. God, you're amazing. Let's get in there. Oh no. Shit. We gotta hurry.
So many walkers. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of walkers throughout the
Where's
seasons.
my screwdriver?
In my shoulder. But I feel like season 1 was definitely. I mean, because this was like, you know, the obviously fresh new outbreak. But it's really cool to see all these awesome zombies.
Yeah.
I like that a lot of the season 1 walkers seem to kind of tell like a story. Like you can kind of like tell like this walker's been through some stuff.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
every walker is like
Yeah.
every walker like was clearly a person and they were going through something.
Right.
That one's walking with a bit more sadness.
Yeah.
Every walker was once a dad, a mom.
Definitely mentioning Sean Ainsworth, who worked a bunch on these games and was directing 400 Days and was around at Telltale for a while after this. But he made this really cool sort of single camera energy to this scene that 'cause I think there was a feeling of maybe we need a big choice up front that just shows people who are new to just Telltale games in general, like, hey, your choices are going to matter.
Right.
But the problem ended up being that you didn't know either of the characters. It was just
Right.
a random, like, okay, am I choosing the guy because he has a funny t-shirt or
Right.
the woman because she has a gun? And it didn't mean as much. So, but yeah, there was a time where that got swapped into the beginning and the game just opened with that and it felt
That's
a bit out of
crazy.
place. Yeah.
Whoa, that was crazy.
Very cool.
The blend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Just
a crazy
blend
blend.
into an idol.
Good tricks in this episode. Shut up, Doug.
What's on Doug's shirt?
That is a barrelope.
Okay.
I was gonna say
I
barracuda.
just
Obviously.
I don't know how I just noticed that. But
So Graham Manable, who used to work at Telltale for a bit as an artist, and then has gone to work on at Leica and Pixar and all sorts of things,
Cool.
and made Grickle and did Puzzle Agent stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He's like
Yeah.
draws all that. He had done this barrelope character, and it had been put on a shirt, and Doug Tobacco, the actual Doug Tobacco,
the
liked
real.
it, and so it just ended up being like, I mean, he would literally wear the sandals like this.
Oh,
This is
totally.
Probably
Yeah.
taken
and-
from a photo and just modeled from real
absolutely.
life. So
Barely a character design.
I want a barrelope shirt.
I have one. We made them. Yeah.
Oh man, it's really cool.
I sadly wore it all the time at first, and then now it's all just.
He's also voiced by
I
Jared.
know. Now
right?
you want to. Huh?
Oh yeah,
voiced by
Jared.
Jared,
That's right.
Jared,
Did
yeah.
Jared
The
do
music.
Doug?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, who did
I
all
see.
the
I
music.
can't hear it right now because we're all yabbering away. But that's hilarious. How am I forgetting all this? I told you, 7 years. Brain.
Yeah, these were the
brain.
days when we like
My
we need
wood.
a guy to do
Yeah.
this, and we would
Yeah,
just do
yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, and Jared is also an amazing, actor. So it works out. And musician. He does, like
Yep.
you just said, all the music. And still does.
I have to
Did.
save Doug
Still
just
does
because I know
did.
it's the contrary choice.
Yes. No, so that was the thing is like Doug was a friend of ours at
Yeah.
Telltale, and Sean and Jake knew him really well. And
Yeah.
he like worked on the
Damn.
Idle Thumbs website with them for years, and so they thought. But we all internally thought 99% of people were going to save Doug just because we know him and he's just a good guy.
Right.
And we're like, oh,
right.
no one really knows Carly. And basically, most people saved Carly, which was kind of a saddening fact afterwards. And we're like, sorry, Doug. No one
Sorry,
likes you."
man.
Yeah.
No one would save you. It's like,
That's why on that picture he just posted recently, he put #Save Doug. I
Yeah.
was like, why did he do that?
movement
Because I
now.
can't
Yeah.
remember anything. He's Doug. That's right.
yeah. Nope. Turned out that she she had a gun, and we thought because he was like the techie sort of guy that seemed like he could be useful in the future for doing things.
Right.
But it was really just she had a gun,
Right.
and
Yeah,
people
the gun
said, like,
wins.
that wins in the
The
Right.
immediacy of the
apocalypse.
gun is hard to beat.
Yeah.
We had this whole puzzle in episode 2 designed where he'd set up like a warning system with tin cans around the motor and perimeter.
Oh, that's
and,
yeah.
Yeah, and then it turned out no one saved him, and we're like,
Well,
I guess we put less effort.
In the
which
world of The
bummer.
Walking Dead, don't get too, attached to anyone.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
There you go, yeah.
It might be useful. Oh, dead.
Doesn't he do something techy
Your
in episode
favorite
3?
character can go at any time.
I think so.
And
Yeah,
believe me, as Lee Everett,
I know.
I know.
I know. And it was funny
I
because I think
approve of
everyone had
this
that in the
comment.
back of their mind, coming in like, "Do I die today?"
Oh, yeah.
No.
fair.
I got to live with that for like 3 more seasons
you
after
conditionally
this.
died today.
Are you guys going to kill her? No. Trevalier.
Well, I think the
Nice.
conditional death thing too was a big hurdle for the development side, because we had all these people that were conditionally there or not there,
Yeah.
and the complexity of that as time goes by was like just horrendous.
Yeah.
It just makes every piece of work that involves the conditional characters exponentially more expensive and
Unbelievable, yeah.
complicated to
Yeah.
make.
Glenn's like, I'm out. I'm out.
Glenn's like, I've had my cameo time in this game. Time to go. Time to go back to my,
So long,
my
Nick
award-winning
Herman.
comic series.
It's funny.
I'm
Oh,
going
we
to
just said that at
Atlanta.
the same time. Yeah, that it should be safer there. Less people.
Yeah.
That's like the last place on the face of the planet. I'm like, I already have my escape route. It's to like the Sierras.
Oh,
or-
totally.
I
Yeah.
don't know,
That's funny.
somewhere.
Yeah,
It's
Catalina.
like hell
Out to the
of
wilderness.
town. Yeah.
Fear the Walking Dead. They finally they had that dude on the yacht. And
Oh
then-
yeah,
and then-
yeah. Oh, I'm forgetting his name. I actually really like Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
that would be the way to go. Of course, you're fishing and you catch a zombie fish.
Right.
They-
well,
they-
of course,
they-
it doesn't
they-
last.
Would
They
you call
did-
them walkers or
Spoiler,
swimmers?
it doesn't last.
Floaters.
Floaters. Yeah,
Floaters.
that's true.
We
Great.
actually did some floating zombies in Michonne. I don't think we really used as much, but we had finally did the floating zombie concept
Nice.
just because Michonne had so much water in it.
I also feel like we haven't mentioned, we've been talking mostly about dev stuff and things in the episode itself, but shout out to obviously Dan and Kevin for starting the company in the early days
Yes.
and sort of shepherding this thing
Yeah.
through from early adventure games to this kind of, interactive narrative and sort of building a bunch of
definitely-
games after that.
And giving a jolt to the industry.
exactly.
Honestly.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
for
know, I
sure.
have to say, when a billion years ago, when I booked Sam and Max, I remember I would see auditions come in, and at that time, it read like an animated series. So as an actor, you're like, oh shit, I need to get in on this.
Yeah,
like, how
this
do
is-
I? It took me a couple
They're
tries.
onto something.
But yeah, but when I booked, Sam and Max and learned more about what Dan and Kevin had started and just learned
Yeah.
about Telltale Games, it was such a gift as an actor to get to work
Yeah.
on something like that, especially as a getting my start in the Bay Area. It's not LA. We don't get
Right.
a lot of animation up there. So this was just like the really cool dialogue driven work that every voice
Yeah.
actor wants to be doing.
Yeah, I remember being at events or PAX or something and meeting other voice actors who you guys had known and who they'd talked to and been like, hey, is there any way, like, who do I send auditions to? Like,
Yeah,
I'd really love to
totally.
get in a
Yeah.
Telltale game
Who do
because
I talk
they
to?
knew it was about the performance and that
Yeah.
we celebrate their voices so much and build everything around those voices.
Yeah.
I imagine being an actor is just like, oh, that sounds like a great, I want to be a part of that.
Right.
Like,
Well, it's ahead, and what Dan and Kevin started was like, I mean, like we've said before, literally changed. It's
They
game
changed the-
changer.
Bone,
face of video
the
games.
great cow race. See, you don't even know that was
Wait,
the
hold
first.
on.
That was the first
Oh,
game.
Was that the
I
first?
remember
I
the
thought
cow
you were
race.
using some expression.
No.
I'm like, I'm just gonna
Actually,
sit
it
here
was.
and-
It was the poker game that was there first,
Poker.
but
Oh,
then Bone was the first. First interactive.
And then there was a Strong Bad at one point, which
Yeah,
is,
that was the only one that. So the Strong Bad guys produced all that dialogue, and
Okay.
Telltale made
Yeah,
the game. It
got
was
it.
fun though. That was a fun.
well, the clips, the
yeah.
the ads for it, whatever you want to say,
Yeah,
that are hilarious.
that was the first game I worked on at Telltale.
Nice.
And there was a
The
weird
strong bad game?
A Strong Bad, yeah.
That's so
Homestar
funny.
Runner. And I remember that was like the first weird shift for the cinematic department. Before it was kind of looked at as more of like, oh, these are the people who just need to implement the puzzles.
Yeah.
And I remember Mark Darren actually on, I think it was episode 4, like the idea was you were making a fake movie, and he basically just said like, I don't care, just go nuts, like, go. And we went. The
that's
small
awesome.
cinematic team at the time just went nuts, and we're making huge fake movies out of everything. And I
That's
was like,
fun.
oh, you can do stuff in the tool. And,
Yeah.
So that was a fun.
And
fun
that's
memory.
where all that stuff built on. You
Yeah.
you built future things off of those things, you know.
Where's the tool now?
It's on a computer somewhere, hopefully.
Golden shiny computer.
somewhere,
Yeah.
somewhere out
Locked
there.
in
Yeah.
the. You have to
No-
like put a
nobody has
sandbag.
access to the tool.
Nope.
No one's publicly said it.
It's
Yeah, I'm sure.
publicly.
I'm sure there's an owner out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole process is mysterious, and yeah,
I
what happens to all
remember
that
at some
stuff.
point I was talking to Kevin early on, and he was talking about making a version for sale.
Oh yeah,
I don't think that ever happened, but
No, that had kind of gone back and forth for years. There was the argument was it's the sort of Telltale special sauce, and it was really powerful for making games like this. Like,
Yeah.
there's no other tool out there that you could make a 2-hour performance-based game in 6 weeks.
Yeah,
like
the
we would do.
cinematic
It's
stuff is
insane.
incredible,
Yeah.
especially near
Yes.
the end. Even too, it kept getting iterated on, and improved and improved.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah, and
powerful.
it being, I remember at LucasArts too when Mike Land and Pete and Clint Bajakian they came up with iMuse for interactive
Yeah.
music, and it's still cool.
like a game changer.
It was a game changer, and they wanted to, make it a product as well.
Mm-hmm.
And forget who the president was at the time, but then all of a sudden it's like, okay, so now you're doing like QA for a tool and product support and it is a secret sauce, so you have to really be a tools developer or a creative developer.
Well, and to wrap it up back to episode 1 here, at the end of this, when episode 1 came out, there was no sort of speculation of how we thought it was going to do. Like, everyone was just like, well, all right, we put everything into it. Who knows? Maybe people will like it, or maybe they'll think it's boring and they want to just shoot more.
Right.
And so it was, when we started on episode 2, we still didn't really know that. And while we were making episode 2 is like episode 1 came out, and that's when we started seeing fan reactions of people
Yeah.
getting really attached to the characters, and it helped us sort of lean in. Yes, well done on next time.
All right.
next
Episode
time on The
1.
Walking Dead.
Well,
But yeah, it helped us
that must
lean
have
in.
been so incredibly rewarding to as it went each episode. On our end too, we were like, oh wow, this is really
what's gonna happen
picking up
next?
Yeah.
speed.
Yeah.
So you guys must
Yeah.
have just
People
been
are talking about
psyched.
this.
Yeah.
It felt like a risky thing to release. I remember we released like the first like 10 minutes of the game or like the babysitter
Oh,
sequence or
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And comments on any video of it were just like, what is this bullshit non-game?
Man.
Like, why is this not
Yeah.
a game? This is just a movie.
Yeah.
In
Like,
your
like initial
face.
fan reaction to anyone who's like a video gamer was like
Right,
totally
right,
negative.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Well.
So it really wasn't
But
until it
see,
came out
it's-
and people dug into it that they understood what it was and guys started to like it.
Totally.
But this is a game that if they got into the story, they'd love it.
Yeah.
But you didn't have to be a very
Exactly.
proficient gamer
Controller.
controller to
And-
enjoy this
and
game.
You didn't
That's
even
what
have to.
turns
You
me
didn't
off
even
of
have to
games
play
now. I
it.
No.
You
can't.
could watch someone play it, and it was also
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes.
No, make that choice.
No, I've met
Yeah.
so many people who are like, well, I don't play games,
I
but
just
me
watch
and my
people
husband
play.
or my daughter or
Yeah.
whoever
Yeah.
controls it, and I basically just, and then we get in arguments, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't
Why
exactly
did you
remember
do
what
that?
the contemporaries are, but it felt like the early days of like interactive narrative being a big thing in like mainstream video games.
Yeah, no.
I feel like there was a lot else quite like it. It
Yeah,
yeah.
now
was
I
before
just
the current era of the walking simulator,
Yes.
which has kind of like
True.
moved into the next level of that.
Yep. That's true.
I just want to keep going down the line.
Oh yeah, the whole sort of showing stats at the end definitely
I heard that was really
born
late.
out of playtesting, and
It was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
it was crazy seeing it because a lot of those choices weren't created with the intention of people arguing over which choice they made at the end, and that's sort of the thing we learned is you have a good choice when you get 2 people in the office and one of them is going, this choice sucks, we need to cut it
Yeah.
because everyone will do this, and then the other person is saying, what? No one's gonna do that.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, this is a good choice. Like,
Yeah,
so
totally.
we're always shooting for the 50-50.
Or
When we in
Doug.
episode 2, we definitely made a lot more stuff for Doug originally, and then I think
Yeah, because like,
Yeah.
how much
They were
budget
like,
can we
meh.
justify putting
Yeah,
into Doug at
exactly.
this point?
yeah. But Carly had some great moments too, so it's like
Yeah.
Carly's also really good.
yeah. So.
I actually forgot about her character. I was digging into the lines, and I forgot she has lines about like like maybe some politician's going to buy her paper and make her have to reside in the blogosphere and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I
There's like a bunch
remember
of like character stuff about her being like a journalist that I totally
Totally.
forgot about until I started digging into the stuff for the definitive edition. And she's really cool.
Yeah.
She's fun. She feels like she's a tired reporter lady.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Yeah.
she's great, and I feel like we didn't talk about her much because we know Doug because he's in the office.
Yeah,
but she
there's
also
a lot,
has
there's a
great
lot of
stuff in
lore
the season.
associated with Doug.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nick Vigil, who voiced
I haven't
Barney.
Yeah,
looked.
yeah.
I
that's
haven't.
right.
I haven't
Yeah, she's great.
done a looked at this game in a while now. I mean,
really?
we're going. What is it? 2019. This was 2013.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Man,
12. I
That's
think.
crazy.
2012.
12,
yeah.
The first episode came out at least.
Yeah.
man, oh man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think we've done I feel like we played the final episode together at one point somewhere down the line in
Yeah.
the last year or so. But yeah, going back to
I
this
haven't
first
looked
episode.
at this first episode in a long
Long
time.
time.
Yeah, me neither. It's
Hogan.
crazy to see. Well, and
And
here's
it-
all the awesome people that made this possible. So
Yes.
Bravo.
Yay.
Look at all those
there's,
awesome people.
Yep.
definitely, it's an insane team effort at Telltale. Everyone is sort of involved in everything, and there was a sort of open floor plan where everyone was encouraged to walk
Javier
around.
Espinosa, he's one
and
of the
talk to each
zombie
other.
voices.
Oh yeah, that's
as
right.
well as my hero.
Oh, a lot of people did zombie deaths. There was like a whole recording session where people would just go in, exactly, and people would go in and chug water and then do
Yeah.
zombie death
Oh,
noises.
I know.
and-
That
yeah,
was awesome.
it's
I
pretty
I remember
great.
the day Jolie went into the booth to scream for that one dying lady,
Mhm.
and everyone you could still hear it out of the soundproof room that Lazar was recording in.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then when she came out, everyone just kind of
Oh,
like
yeah.
applauded.
You know what it was? What it reminded me, Rhoda, who was who
Yeah,
worked at Telltale on the administration side.
Yeah.
She'd been there for a long time. In Narnia, which was the undeveloped backspace of the
The place we
Telltale
were not
studio,
supposed
where
to
we're not
be
supposed
in.
to be, but
Yeah.
ended up
Narnia.
being a meeting room
That
because
was the
everything else was
greatest room.
booked.
Yeah.
And they were doing recording, I think, for the prototype of Walking Dead season 1. Oh yeah,
she
it
was the
because
lady in the prototype.
She plays the lady in the
That makes sense,
prototype,
that makes sense.
and she's basically in there just screaming bloody murder. And someone downstairs in the other building called the police
Called the
or
police.
called Telltale to saying they were going to call the police or something.
Oh man.
And we were hearing it in the office, and
Yeah.
it sounded terrifying.
I'm
It
sure.
was not a good moment to be sitting there at your desk going like, is everything
They're
okay?
making
Yeah.
games.
Well, I tell you, if you're a voice
I
actor
was just gonna
and you're
say.
doing video games, and you have to audition at home. It's best to
In your
have
closet.
a house, not a apartment.
I live in
Good
an
point.
apartment, but I'm very close with my neighbors. I'm like, if you ever hear screaming,
Text me first.
Yeah.
yeah. Especially if it sounds like military commands or get down.
Give me the gun, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's hard to you don't want to yell that in your apartment.
Oh
Man,
Lord.
oh
Yeah.
man.
That was thank you, Kent, for
Yeah, this is
guiding us
awesome.
through
Oh,
that.
Thank you
Yeah,
all for
trolling.
coming.
Of course.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
by
Thanks,
the
guys.
way,
Fun.
you know, we talked a lot about Telltale, which we all love, but thank you, Skybound.
Yes.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Because when Telltale went under, Skybound stepped
Stepped
up
in.
and I can't imagine how the fans would have felt if this story didn't come to
It
a
would have been
conclusion.
it was it was
Oh, it
literally
would have been
devastating.
horrific.
and
It would have been
would've-
horrific.
Yeah.
So, Skybound,
yeah.
Yeah,
we salute you.
for sure.
Yes.
Cheers to Skybound.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, and
Confetti
you guys
everywhere.
with the season 4 team, if the game had come out and not been good and satisfying, then everyone would have just said,
Exactly.
"Oh man, they should have not ended it." And
Yeah.
people aren't saying that, so that's like the
No.
highest
Exactly.
praise. Like,
Yeah.
It's
There's
been
criticisms, but
amazing.
no one's like, none of this should have existed.
exactly.
Ever.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
which is
win.
the easy troll internet
Totally.
thing to do.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's been an amazing journey in general. So we got to finish it.